What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I have my glasses on my shirt still. How's everyone doing? I hope wonderful. Hope you had a good weekend. I'm excited about today's show, man. A lot of different reasons. One, I got my buddy Jake Lewis on the show today. He's, if you guys you saw, I've been doing stand-up lately. Over the course of the last 6 months, this dude's one of the main reasons that I was able to do that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. It's also one of the main reasons. You remember that Robin Williams short that came out a little bit with our buddy Jamie Costa? He's like the brains behind a lot of this magic that you see online, and we'll talk to Jake about that. And he's pretty fucking funny. I'm not going to tell him to be funny on this show. If he's not, then that's tough shit for you. You got to go see him live. Him and his brother are hilarious. You got to see the Lewis brothers. We'll talk about them though. But I've also talked about this Cobra Kai. And you guys know how much I love Cobra Kai. Well, I got the one and only Terry Silver. That's right, Thomas Ian Griffith. We sat down for about half an hour and talked. He was so generous with his time. We're going to have that on today's show. And, a couple other things. Whatever we get into, this is one of those conversations. I like the Monday episodes because you never know where it's going to go. It's a lot of times we'll talk about whether it's Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or Star Wars or whatever the fuck. But today is just a conversation, man, with a friend. So get ready for it. And by the way, if you haven't done it already, please, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. And as you see in the top corner over here, Carbon Health, man. Carbon Health. I'm excited that Carbon Health is with us. I'm excited that we are now going to be sponsored by Carbon Health on these episodes, and you'll see them a lot more on the Andor eps as well. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited to have them because, as I mentioned to you, we had them for Schmoedown Spectacular, and they've got over 110 locations nationwide. They have 80 locations in California, Bay Area, Los Angeles, Sacramento, North San Diego. It's basically advanced care for the most urgent care facilities. For example, they have the ability to handle x-rays on locations. You don't have to go somewhere else to get a review and x-ray. Like they know it's not easy to have health insurance in this company. So they're here to help. And then you can start a relationship with a professional that you can trust to take care of yourself before a major issue arises. Things like screenings, they should start having performed. We should start having them performed when we approach our 40s. I'll tell you, I just had that done too. But I'm very excited to be talking and being involved with Carbon Health. They're very, very helpful, and I'm excited they're back. All right, and once again, thank you to you guys. The studio, it's all because of you. The reason why it's looking the way it does right now is because you guys, you advanced it. All right, let's get into this. It's a big thing. It's me. It's Jake Lewis. Let's party. What's up, rats? Is that a nice way to talk to your audience, I guess, in the morning on a Monday? What's up, rats? Do me a favor. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Help us out. We've been growing. I got the note. Our numbers are the highest they've ever been since we started this show, and that's because of you guys. Thank you. All right, enough about us, enough about you. Let's talk about my guest. Jake Lewis is here. What's up, dude?
What's going on?
You got to talk in that microphone. You know this.
Shit. I really don't.
You're good talking about it.
I'm not that experienced with the podcasting.
You're experienced with the microphone.
That's true.
And
That's
well
true.
done with that microphone, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate it, sir.
So for people who don't know, as I mentioned earlier, you and I met through Jamie Costa.
Yeah.
Who I guess recommend. So let me ask you a question. It was something I always wanted to ask you, and I didn't ask you in person.
Go for it.
So when Jamie recommends you, because you start running these stand-up shows, because you made your mark in both sketch comedy and directing and doing all that, right? Mm-hmm. So you start doing stand-up comedy shows because you were interested in it, right?
Yes. It was mainly like I did stand-up and sort of sketch, but at Second City, and it was always sort of like a mashup of the two. Like where it would be like more of like a one-man show sort of thing. Like I would do stand-up and then it would kind of break out into song and whatever. Right. But kind of during the pandemic, I got more interested in just like, I just want to be on stage and in front of people again.
And talk and kind of just vent.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because like I kind of went into more of like filming on my own and making sketches and making short films.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of missed during the pandemic just being around people and having that immediate response from people.
Yeah, well, and you've been getting it. So you do your own show, and you had Flappers, right? So you start doing that, and so Jamie then says to you, hey, I know these assholes, Mark Ellis and Kristian Harloff, right? So and
that's exactly how
I'm sure he did. And you should put him on stage. Do you get hesitant, or you trust in Jamie, or how does that work? Right, not knowing us.
I trust Jamie, and he showed me some of your stuff. You're a very funny man.
That's not true.
You and Mark. No, you guys are great. The show is great. Big fan.
Thank you.
Mark Ellis is fantastic, and yeah, I do trust Jamie, and he's a strong-willed individual.
He's like, do it.
So he's like, put these guys on. I'm telling you, they're good.
Good. I owe Jamie a lot. Jamie's a good dude.
He pushed, and I trust him, and anyone Jamie's friends with, I'm sure, is a good dude.
Well, so then I got a chance to do your show, and it was funny because I jumped on. I was on a show in New York, so I kind of like falsely billed the first time I did your show.
Yeah, your name is the Comedy Store.
It's on the Comedy Store, yeah. But I hadn't done. I mean, I did a show in New York, I think, like once I jumped up on Mark's show, I think like a year before your show. So I kind of falsely billed that I hadn't been on stage in like 12 years. But however, in LA, I hadn't been on stage in like 12 years. So it wasn't fully a lie. But I got gotten up there and I got familiar with that room because I had never done flappers before. And it's a fun room. It's a fun thing. But do you find it challenging to manage that whole show plus, perform everyone that you do?
Yes, I do. Well, no, because I love the aspect of performing, but I get nervous for everyone who's going to go on stage.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of when we get sort of comedians that are sort of more established comedians, they're doing 3 shows a night, all over town. So it's hard for them to kind of bring in people to every show.
Right.
So it's like I also like to find open micers that I think are funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And give them a shot. And I know they're going to invite people out because they're doing the main room at Flappers on a weekend.
And they want to come back.
Yeah, but I get nervous for those guys a lot. I'm like, I hope they're good.
Right. Because it's always tough. So Jake and I were talking about this, and I've told this story on stage. I mean, not on stage, on this show. We even called Ken to talk about it. So there was only really 5 people in the room when this happened, and I have to tell it again because it's just fucking hilarious. So Jake had booked myself and Ken Knapsack on this show recently. It was like, I think it was like the end of July, I think it was. And so we get there, and I got there super early. I got there really early, and as I get there, I go to the main room, and here's Jay Leno on stage. Jay Leno's a legend, and he's up there for about an hour or whatever he's doing, and he's up there and he's doing really well. So I go in the back room, in the green room, and I want to sit down and just kind of I'm not as young as I used to be, Jake. So I got to go and I got to sit down and I got to relax. And so I'm sitting in the back, and there's a woman in the back, an older woman, and I'm like, I don't know, she could be a manager, she could be a comedian, she could be the owner of the club. I don't know. So she's just sitting there, and I'm like, hello, very polite to her. Ken's in there, we're talking. So and you come in. And you start working on your thing, and you're sitting down on the side, and the 3 of us were talking, and then one of the newer comedians comes in, and I had never seen her before, and that's not to say that anything except I'm just out of the scene, right? So she walks in, and she's just, it was very reminiscent to me, though. It reminded me of the old days for me, when you just see the comedians who are nervous, who are coming in and just want to hey, look at me, I'm here because I feel awkward and I want to let you know that I'm funny too. And she comes in and she sits down next to this older woman, and she looks up at the screen where we see Jay Leno, and she goes, whoa, Jay Leno looking rough. The older woman looks to the side and goes, that's my husband. So do you look up from your notes, and do you remember what I started doing? I started smashing Ken Knapsack with my glasses, and I'm just hitting him with my glasses. And she recovered somehow. I don't know how she did it, but she recovered.
Well, I immediately because I knew that was Jay Leno's.
It's Mavis. How do you?
But also okay, so I felt for this young comedian.
Yes,
I understand she's feeling nervous.
Right.
She wants to make an impression. I thought she was. I was like, oh yeah, you're making your presence known.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
And then when she said that, I immediately was like, just didn't want to make eye contact with her. And she was trying to talk to me or whatever. And I was sitting next to Ken, I think. And we both just started looking around the room. There's nothing to look at. We're just looking around the room trying
you know what we should have done? All 3 of us should have just left. We should have
like, you know what? I think we should.
The Homer
go
Simpson out the back
Yeah.
thing. It was like, but you know what I was bummed about though, because she said she goes because she owned it that she fucked up, and she goes, "Oh man, I wonder if I should say anything about the stage." I'm like, "Absolutely, 100%. You should," and she didn't. She didn't say anything, and I was like, "How do you not mention that? That's a hilarious story."
I know, it's so. And honestly, credit to her because she did bounce. I think that I would have just passed away in that moment. I would not. The idea of like shitting on Jay Leno in front of Jay Leno's wife, I'd be like, and also Jay Leno at Flappers especially is royalty.
He's like the guy.
He is the guy.
He's the guy. He comes in. Yeah, he's the guy. And so, but to Mavis's credit, she's like, yeah, he looks a little rough right now. You know, he's tired and he's doing this.
Oh, and you know how she recovered it? She's like, well, I'm so used to seeing him on TV, and he has a tie, and his hair is combed, and he didn't have his hair combed.
Whatever she did.
She recovered, I think.
She tried to. She didn't. She was a deer in headlights, but she didn't look like one.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
It was hilarious. I mean, it was hilarious. That was what all anybody could talk about for the whole night. And I was like, the fact that I kept that in and didn't say it on stage was like, it's so weird now. Like the moods that I get before I go up on stage. Like, I think like the second show, I've done like 3 shows for you, I think now.
Yeah.
And I think the second one was the one I had the most fun at. Because I walked in, I remember the first one I was, the nerves were there because I hadn't done it in a bit, and Mark was like, yeah, you have your set and you're understanding what you want to do, and then when I saw Mark the second time, he's like, oh, you're in this mood, he's like, you're gonna do well, and that was the one. I think that was the one I wound up putting up on this channel. I put up like a bit from this channel, and I was just in that mood where, earlier in the day I was in kind of like, it's some kind of funky mood, and it actually it helped. It's like when I'm in a really good mood, it's like it could go either way. But like if I'm in like
you need a bit of an edge.
Yeah, I definitely had an edge the second show. The third, that's why. So Jake has a show. Well, by the time this airs, the show was on Friday. It was on Friday night or Saturday.
Yeah, Friday night.
It's tonight. It's tonight. So we're taping it tonight. So I'll make sure that even though this is not this is taping afterwards, we'll put a little thing out there so you guys know if you want to see it. In the past, you can go to DeLorean and go see it, but I'll also put it on my Twitter beforehand. But it was one of the reasons that and to Jake's credit, Jake has asked me every single time he does a show, and is very, very kind to ask me to do every one of his shows. And I had to turn this one down. The other times it was like right, it was still bound. My kid wasn't vaccinated at one point, and all this that she is now, and all that, which was that I don't need to worry about anymore, right? But like. And I was being completely honest with Jake, and he's like, "Hey, so I have a show." I'm like, "Okay, great." I'm like, "What time's your show?" It's like, "If it's 9:30." He's like, 10:30. I'm like, "Grandpa is not making it out."
Honestly, I regret accepting the show. I do not want to go do a show tonight at 10 o'clock. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's because that's why so late tonight. Just curious.
I don't know. They like were really. The shows have been selling well the past couple times, and so they were just like. They started asking like that last time it was our first Saturday night, and now they're like, "Do you want just Friday nights? Like, can you do Friday nights the rest of the year?" Like,
that's
sort
great.
Of like one show a month. And I was like, "I'm down," but they didn't tell me that it was
10:30 is tough. Or 10 is tough.
It starts at 10, but 10, like you know that starts at 10.
Yeah, so you'll be. I mean, especially because you do, and Jake does a very funny like you do like 20-25 minutes.
Yeah,
so you and the songs that you're coming up with, and you're always changing. You're changing it as you're up there. Like a lot of times, like you'll move the. What I mean by that is like the order of where you place
I'll move the lawn furniture around.
right, 100%.
Yeah.
So are you constantly you're coming up with because you and your brother started your thing together, right? Yeah.
So we started like the Lewis brothers. Me, Sam, and his wife Jenna is the editor.
Okay.
And me and Sam are writing partners, and we started doing sketch comedy just posting sketch comedy videos online.
Right.
Which turned into like Facebook kind of picked us up for a while to do like original content for them, which like no one cares about Facebook
anymore. But back then they did.
Back then it was working.
It was the thing.
It was the thing.
Yeah.
And we kind of like we started getting more attention with the Justice League chat. videos, which is like all the Justice League members on a Skype call.
Oh, I think, yeah. Because I first heard about you guys, obviously, through Jamie again, too, because you guys had done a bunch of stuff with Jamie, and he used to post it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that guy's really funny.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's true. And because when that's how I knew when he was like, yeah, my buddy Jake Lewis. I'm like, that's the guy you do the videos with. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So, and jumping back into that, because how did you and Jamie meet, by the way?
So we were doing Justice League Chat, which is that series where like weekend warriors. It's not about them like saving the world or anything. It's about like the fact they all live in different cities.
Yeah.
And so how do they communicate in between times? They all have a group chat that they do, like kind of Zoom, you know, and everyone has powers, so they can all meet up pretty quickly, except for Batman, who takes like a little bit longer. And that's usually the butt of the joke, is that he can't move with the agility as like everyone else can. But like we were looking for a Joker in that series, and Robin was originally supposed to be
the Riddler.
Yeah, or he was cast as Joker in the original Batman.
Burton's one?
Yeah, and he lost it to Jack Nicholson.
Oh, shit.
It was actually like a big
and then he came back as he was supposed to do Riddler with Schumacher. Right.
And then so we reached out because he just became big because that Robin Vine thing. So we reached out to him to would you play Joker in this series?
Oh, wow.
And he was down. He just moved to LA.
Oh, that's funny.
So
that's going to be what, 2015, 2016?
Yeah. And we were shooting at like Sunset Las Palmas Studios.
Okay.
And so he came by, and ever since then we've been working on just so many different things with each other. And so he had a perfect Mark Hamill Joker, so he kind of did that. He did that Mark Hamill Joker for that series. And then ever since then, I've just like, I ask him to do like things where I'm like, I love The Shining. Like, can you do a Jack Nicholson thing like for The Shining? And like sometimes he's very precious over his impressions, as you know.
He is.
So it's like it's hard to. He'll say no if he's uncomfortable, but I ask him all the time.
Yeah, he'll probably get mad at me for saying this, but like I had him on. We were on Jedi Council, and you guys are doing a project together that's coming out.
Yes.
And so when he first came on, I was asking him, like, because I've always done this thing with him where I kind of like throw scenarios at, like what we did at your show. Right. Jamie came on stage and with me, and I kind of threw scenarios at him, and he did it. And I was doing that, but I forgot. He told me before, and he's like, if we're doing a few, I don't want to do Robin. I'm not going to do today for obviously reasons. That's absolutely fine. And he's like, I don't want to do Jack right now because the thing, and I forgot. So I didn't throw Robin at him, because that I remembered pretty clear. But I asked him, I think it was like Jack Nicholson as like Mace Windu or something, right? But he still did it, and he did it. And then he's like, "Can you cut it out?" And I was like, "Yeah, I cut it out." I was like, "Fine." but it was hilarious. But I wanted to show respect to the fact that he asked for it. But it was. Right. But you're right. He's the sweetest guy in the world.
Yes.
But he's very protective over his shit.
He's very protective.
Yeah.
Very protective. Which like that always makes things like, because I'll ask him like, I'm a little bit more like I'll do whatever. Loosey-goosey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, let me ask you that, though, because let's talk about that Robin thing.
Oh, yeah,
Because so for people who don't know, Jake directed that short that blew up, the one that everybody saw. If you didn't know Jamie Costa before that, you did. And I have a reaction on this channel to that short, and I think it's like the only way you can actually see the damn thing now is on my channel. So Jamie had sent that to me way before it came out, and I remember then it was released, and I was like, oh yeah, and then you directed it. So how did that? Tell me about how it all came about, and then what it was like after the thing hit the internet and just kind of took over.
Well, so me and Jamie, like I reached out to him during pandemic, which everybody was not doing anything during the pandemic. So we're all just like, really just trying to find something to do, some work to do. And so I reached out to him and was like, I bet you I can make you the biggest TikToker in the world. I was like, I bet you I could do it. I was like, just let me just write things for you, and I'll write things for you. We'll just start posting, and he was resistant at first, but then he got into it, And so we kind of worked together all throughout pandemic, where we were just like, that was our pandemic bubble. And we were just working together, and I was just like writing bits for him to do. And we were just doing the TikTok stuff, and we were just collabing in that sort of way. And then it kind of was presented to him to do like through a producer to do a Robin thing.
Right.
And the first thing he said was like, like he came to me and Sam, my brother, Sam Lewis,
yes.
To write the short conceptual piece for a bigger film.
Right.
So me and Sam started doing a bunch of research together. And, Jamie had the idea to do that scene, to do the scene
with Pam.
Yeah, with Pam, where he finds out John Belushi, whatever. So me and Sam did a bunch of research. We talked to people who were close to Robin that we had connections with. And so we kind of put this piece together, and then it just all kind of came together so quickly where so I directed that, and then I sat with Jamie in an editing room and I edited it. When we initially made it together, we weren't expecting to release it. It was supposed to just be like a thing that bring around to shop around. And then I remember like nothing was really happening with it. And Jamie called me one morning and was just basically like, what do we do? We're just sitting on this thing. And he's like, should we actually, I got this story wrong a little bit. I saw that someone somehow had it and posted it on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
So it leaked. I don't know how it leaked. There was producers involved. It was whatever.
Right.
People were
Someone
sending
got
it around.
someone who had seen it had a hold of it and then said, this is too good to be sitting on it.
Yeah, so it got released on TikTok. It got released on Reddit. And so he was just like, we need to get ahead of this thing. I was like, yeah, sure. Release it.
Right.
And so he released it that morning. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, I don't know how it got leaked or whatever. But
you didn't think it was gonna?
I didn't think it was gonna do anything.
Really?
I genuinely didn't think he was.
Okay.
He was asking, "What should I write for the credits?" I was like, "I don't know. Whatever you want." You know what I mean?
That thing just caught fire.
And so he posted it, and I went to the gym that morning. I put my phone in a locker, and I went into the gym. And when I went back to my phone, it blowing up.
Yeah.
But the first text I saw was from my brother, and he's like, dude, we're in People magazine.
Wow.
And I was like, the first feeling I felt was kind of like fear.
Yeah.
And I immediately was calling Jamie to make sure he was okay or something. Because then I Googled it and it was everywhere. But people were sending me screenshots of my name being mentioned in People and CNN
Surreal,
and Entertainment Tonight. And I was just like, it was scary at first. It was overwhelming. But then, of course, very exciting and it was amazing.
What I thought was, and it was true because Robin's daughter was getting hit up with a bunch of stuff too, and I thought the way that she handled it was pure class. And I thought that she said, listen, I have nothing against Jamie Costa and the people that made it, right? It's like it's an amazing performance, but stop sending it to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's just not something I want to see because, it's my dad and there's pain and there's this thing and everyone's like, all right, Zoe was like, when she said it, you're like, okay, we get it. But it was because I totally there was like two arguments, right? There was the one argument that said that it was just a pure impression and that was it, and I was like, you're crazy. You're a crazy person if you think that. And then when you see because Jamie, that's not what Jamie does. No. Even though sometimes we fall back into the idea that we say it's an impression, it's a performance, and he channels people. It's bizarre. He's a mutant. I call him. Yeah, he's like an X-Men. Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, the what he did on that set, it was insane.
Yeah.
He really tapped into something, and it was he wanted a lot to not even do. He's like, I don't even want to do I was pushing him, and me and Sam thought it was very important that in the beginning he do that. If you remember the beginning of the short, he is doing a full blown like
Robin,
that we know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's very important. And initially he's like, no, I want to show the Robin that people have never seen before. And I was like, I think it's important that they see this. It was
that transition.
Yeah. And then you can transition into like, wow, this is him behind closed doors. And we meant it with like, obviously Jamie is a huge fan of Robin to where he doesn't just pull that impression out, which he could. And it could probably get him, really far.
100%. He does not like to exploit it.
No.
That's one of the reasons I respect him so much, because he does it because of the honor. Like every time that I've talked to him about it, like he has said to me many times, he's like, the reason I do it when I'm with you is because of the way you asked me to do it. It's like I don't ever feel like you're trying to exploit it. You're not trying, and like it's like there's just little things that he does that I think that work really well, and I think that was a really smart move to have him up top do that Robin that we know, because it then transitions us into the Robin that we didn't know as much, or as well. I read all of his stuff, so I was familiar with it. I knew that scene very well.
Right.
So because I remember watching it when I'd seen it back when Jamie sent it when you guys first did it, and I'm like, oh, this is a monumental moment in his life. Like it's this conversation with her. She said to, because she said those words. She said that if you do this, I'll kill you. If you don't, you know, she said, and it was like, stop fucking around. And he stopped after that, or he leveled out.
Yeah, nothing is linear. Like there's always step backs and whatever.
Right.
Like there's never like, now I'm better.
He didn't just go cold turkey, but he was on a rocket ship to nowhere.
Yeah.
He was on a rocket ship, and after John Belushi passed away, he was like, and they had that conversation. He's like, okay, let's reevaluate here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of so we really wanted to be respectful, and I think it affected Jamie too to see that Zelda said that.
Yeah.
But Zelda obviously was very complimentary. There was a lot
Zoe.
of
Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
I said
that's
Zoe.
okay.
No, you're right.
It's
I
okay.
said thank you. People were correcting me in the comments, and I said Zoe. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Zelda was very complimentary, but like obviously like we didn't want her to be spammed with this, and we hope that it didn't hurt her, and I think that was largely the reason why Jamie took it down. So it was we meant it with nothing but respect and everything.
I think she knew that coming from you guys.
Yeah,
I think it's just a matter that the internet's the internet.
The internet's the internet,
and that's the thing. So and if you can't talk about it, that's cool. But did anything come about it?
Oh, of the ROM.
Yeah.
So like, we're not. Me and my brother are no longer like sort of involved in that side of things. It's more Jamie's sort of thing. What me and my brother like to do is we're fascinated with Hollywood history and the idea that sort of these stories from before everyone was documenting everything and everyone was documenting their own lives, and we know stars on a different
different level. Yes, that's
a
true.
very intimate level where like there's legends about Jack Nicholson. Mm-hmm. There's legends about John Belushi, and John Belushi in his short life. Like there's so many different versions of John Belushi that people talk about, and you don't really like where they go, actually John Belushi was actually like this or that, and they're like, actually he was a lot sweeter than you think, like whatever, and you're like, he was around for a blip.
Yeah.
And there's these stories about him that are just like, can that be true? And that's what's fascinating to me about the era of comedy of the 70s with Robin Williams and with John Belushi and of Hollywood of that era, is there's these stories that become tall tales.
Right.
And so that's what we were more interested in telling than telling more of like a biopic that's like really by the book and that's really factual and all this sort of stuff. Like we want to tell, so that kind of inspired, like we were doing another project where Jamie is gonna we released a trailer to it recently. But we have a project that has John Belushi in it and is the story of the very short-lived contentious relationship between John Belushi and Jack Nicholson on the set of Going South.
Amazing.
And so there's stories from that set that are all these hugely fantastic stories that that we have no idea what the true story actually is. So the way we tell it is, this is a fantasy.
Right.
This is a tall tale. So we're adhering to the spirit of who these people are. We're not trying to tell a resume, or we're not trying to hit bullet points.
Right. And so this trailer is on Jamie's channel right now?
Yeah, it's on Jamie's channel and on our channel.
Okay.
It'll be released on our channel, the Lewis Brothers channel. The full feature will.
On both YouTube and Facebook?
Yeah, YouTube and Facebook. Okay. And right now we're just kind of like shopping it around the festival circuit and stuff like that.
Well, I would say it's probably a sure bet that you should be checking that out, and it's going to be popular. I would absolutely bet that that's exactly what's going to happen. And if you like betting, how about MyBookie? MyBookie, ladies and gentlemen. MyBookie, it's back. I'm excited to have them back. Man, look, it is now week 3. Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, Mac Jones or Lamar Jackson. It's a show of young guns and the old guard, and nothing makes these matchups more exciting than having skin in the game. You do it at MyBookie. MyBookie has super contests, survivor pools, and a double deposit bonus that gives you everything you need to secure the bag. Getting started is simple. Sign up today and use that promo code BIGTHING, and you'll double your first deposit instantly. Use that promo code BIGTHING and double your deposit up to $1,000 with MyBookie. This isn't your grandfather's bookie. This is MyBookie. Put your money where your mouth is and get rewarded for it. You got to begin your winning season today exclusively at MyBookie. Make sure you're using that code BIGTHING. All right, shifting on over. Some of this other stuff, man. So you were talking about, I'd asked you before, because what are we going to talk about today? I'm like, whatever we talk about. And I asked you, so what do you watch right now? And you're watching a lot of true crime stuff. Like what is Netflix stuff?
Yeah, I'm watching true crime. I just can't. Sometimes, like when you're writing a lot, like, and I'm sure, like, it's hard for me to watch scripted stuff, because it just feels like more like, I don't know, I get exhausted by it.
Yeah.
But I've been watching just a lot of true crime. Just
People
like,
love it, man.
What am I watching now? Like I just started. There's a Netflix show about the Hillside Strangler.
I saw I saw that it was on there, but
yeah.
it's
the thing is, like
I like the little creepy smile at the end of it. Like he goes, he looks at me, he's like, so there's a thing about the Hillside Strangler.
Because I do feel like I don't know why, and it's totally morbid. I feel like people try, like it's a moral gray area to make these shows.
The reason they're popular, man. The reason people are fascinated by it, because then you don't ever want to. They don't ever, it's not 99.9% of the people watching it would never do shit like that at all. But it's fascinating to them how the brain can go there.
Well, no, and I take it to the thing where, like, the Hillside Strangler, that all happened in like my neighborhood of Los Angeles, and I love the history of Los Angeles. So I, like, I'm like, oh my God, that was like, that's right next to my gym.
Right.
Like that's,
Right.
And it becomes super fascinating to me. Like I found out through listening to a podcast about the Black Dahlia that I've been driving past the lead suspect's house every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where it starts getting twisted for me, where I'm like texting my girlfriend. I'm like, I'm right next to where they probably killed this person.
Weird how that works, man, because like I remember when my mother came to visit me years ago, and I'm like, you want to go to Disneyland? Do you want to go? You want to go to the Grove? She's like, I want to see where the OJ murders were. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, why? She's like, well, it's Brentwood. It's not too far away. And it's like, I offered you Mickey Mouse, and you want blood. I'm like,
you're like being that close to something that horrific. I don't know. It's a very human thing where you're like, I'm standing right where like just absolutely someone felt the worst pain that anyone's ever. Why are we so fascinated by it?
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I do think it's because, like I said, like it's that weird understanding, like that your brain. Well, you hope your brain can't go there, and that it can't be, but it's like that. What George Lucas says, right? It's like always the dark side is in everyone. I think it's just a matter of the access to it, and it's like, who does the best job of not accessing it? That's really what it comes to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why like I grapple with like why I watch it, because like I literally fall asleep to it now. Like I put it on and I'm just like, it's soothing to me in that weird sort of
It's
way.
weird, but it's also disturbing. Not that you're falling asleep to it, but the fact that it's similar to what you just said before about how when everybody's documenting their lives and everything too. It's just like you get numb to stuff after a while, and you're almost. It's like it's sad because you're not surprised anymore that someone could do that, because like you said, you could turn off that thing about the hillside thing and turn on another one, and it's different, but it's similar because someone has gone to that place again.
It's similar. And like then you watch stuff like that's kind of one-off shows. It doesn't tell like a whole arc. It's like Dateline where it's like one-off, and it's always pretty similar. So it's not even just like, oh, a crazy person that went and murdered a bunch of people. It's like a guy like was married to this girl, and instead of like having a conversation with her about like, hey, maybe we should get divorced, he decides to murder her instead.
Right. It's like, where do these people go? Look, right now, so I had my friend on last week or 2 weeks ago, Andrew Freed. So he's the producer of Chef's Table and Last Chance U and Cheer, and he did that Val Kilmer documentary on Amazon, but he also did Let's Talk About Cosby and I don't know if you watched that.
I did watch that.
So I started watching that, and it's fucking hard to watch, but it's such a good documentary.
It's so well done, and the thing is, like, I think that puts into context, because I feel like in the media, people start to like joke around about stuff, and they're like whatever, and then it's interesting to watch where you see this timeline of like Cosby started off, and like it felt like there was a side of Cosby that did a lot of great things.
Yeah, they start.
It's
with
amazing.
That.
Just two white guys just talking about this horrible thing. But like Cosby started off like doing amazing things for the black community, where like apparently he was the stunt. He stood up to get black stuntmen actually hired, which before then it was just white dudes in black,
which was crazy. I didn't know that, and it was funny because Kamau Bell, who does the whole thing, is talking to people, and he's like, "Did you know the Cosby story, the stunt story?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, and it's like, well, that's and I can't remember who they're talking to. Like, that's what I'm saying. They couldn't believe it because what they're about to talk about, and they're like, that's all the good shit that he did.
I know.
But then they start to play into like his old albums, and he starts talking about Spanish Fly, and it's like, oh man,
it's so messed up. And honestly,
so messed up.
Like the stuff that Cosby did, because I was listening to, because again, I'm just consuming true crime now, like 24/7. I was listening to a podcast about the Zodiac the same time I was watching that, and I was like, I swear to God, I think Cosby is like, it's more disturbing hearing about Cosby's stuff than hearing about the Zodiac killer.
It's crazy.
I think he's like, I mean, apples and oranges.
I know what you're saying, but like it's crazy when you go, because again, Kamau Bell was going through. He's like, look, before I was born, or when I was really young, Cosby was doing this stuff. Like, look at the examples, look at the accusation, and you're like, holy shit!
And the number of victims,
crazy, and the stories that are coming through, and it's like, but just the idea of it, and the amount of people that they had to talk about it. And I'm only like 2 episodes in, and it's just, I'm sure it gets like crazier and crazier as it goes on. But it's like, but anyway, my point is like, it's stuff like that I was watching. I watch those things time to time. I'm most like right now, that is one of, and I started watching Chef's Table Pizza, which he also did, and I'm just a pizza fanatic, right? So watching that I prefer those types of things, like, because when the deeper, darker psyche of people, I know that people can get there, and the ugliness of it, I understand that people like Mark Riley, a buddy of mine as well too, like loves his shit, and a lot of people do. It's hard for me to venture in there, and if my friend didn't produce the Cosby thing, I don't know if I would have watched it. Yeah, but but that's my problem. If I lock into episode 1, I got to finish it. Like
that's the thing. You're completist.
Yes, my wife is not, right. So like my wife, like I'll start a piece of shit, and I got to finish it. Like Morbius, it's like nobody needs to finish Morbius, but I finished Morbius.
Oh no, I'm the same way with horror movie franchises.
You got to finish it.
Like literally, I become a collector of. I think it's because I have horrible anxiety. That's why like I watch like true crime and like and horror movies. I love horror movies because it kind of takes me out of my own stuff where I can just be enveloped with like don't go up the stairs or something.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
I can just be completely taken out of my own like really not that important worries and be completely enveloped into life and death situations and like the most horrific stuff ever. It's like I don't know, it completely takes me out of my head where like now I have a hard time watching comedy because I'll just like
comedies for me are tougher these days too. The audience knows. Like it's because I don't know. I just don't find a lot of stuff funny these days. There's like and when
because you spend so much time analyzing what's funny.
I think that's partially it, and I think like, but I get a kick out of Cobra Kai, and we'll transition to that in a little bit. But
I finished the first 2 seasons. I'm completely behind.
Yeah, it's been really good, and I like what they've done with it, and I think that Billy Zabka is hilarious in the show. I think that that Chosen character Yuji is hilarious in this season. But there's things that I absolutely find funny. I think oh no shit! I'm pointing to the wall like it used to be there. I have it over there. I'll show you. It's a poster with myself, Brad Ernst from Cobra Kai, and Sebastian Maniscalco.
Oh, nice!
Dude, you got to see how ridiculous. Here, you know what? You can do a little monologue. I want to show you this thing. Hold on a second. There you go.
Okay. Well, as I was saying, I have to watch a bunch of horror movies. I watched all of the Final Destinations recently. I don't recommend it. It's tough.
You can display this. Look how old this is. Look how old this is.
Wow.
It's so old.
Look at that.
That is amazingly old. Look at that stupid hair. And that's
so
Brett Ernst. He's on Cobra Kai right now. His cousin Louis. Everybody.
Yeah, you're dressed like Joey from Friends.
100%. Yeah, well, because I figured I had to look like them. Although that was my headshot at the time. But with Sebastian, what are you doing? Why, if there's a woman sitting in a room and you don't know who she is, don't say Jay Leno looks rough. Most likely, he's fucking her.
Honestly, that's an amazing impression, man.
Oh, I've known Sebastian for a long time.
I'll make a short film where you get to play
Sebastian
in his darkest moment.
He's a way better dresser, man. Anyway, so that being said, I also for other people, Jake is one of the things too. I said this last time when I went on Jake's show. Jake books a lot of young people. And that's a good thing. It's a smart thing because those are the people who are going to come out to your show at 10 o'clock at night. So I was up on stage the last time, and I went up on there and I go, all right, who's married out here? Nobody clapped. And I go, all right, what about relationships? How long you been in a relationship for? And the guy goes, 2 months. And I'm like, I think my next words were, fuck this, right? But I can't remember. I said, because you got to remember, it's like this time loop for me in stand-up. Right. That when I was going up on stage, I wasn't too far off from your age.
Right.
When I was up there, so I had that same type of energy that you have. And I said this to you. You and I had breakfast. You're like, I'm getting old. I'm like, dude, you ain't old. And I had that kind of energy, and I told Kate Mulligan afterwards, I'm like, it's the first time I did stand-up, and I felt like the old guy, and I hated that. I hate it. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. This is it's not you. It's me, and I hate it inside of it. I'm like, but that's the accepting your own mortality type thing, and that's you're realizing going, yeah, you just got to evolve with it. You know what I mean? But the beauty is, and the reason why you can get a little older, is you gotta get yourself some GL.
I was like, where's this going?
They just sent this stuff to me, man, and you talk about as far as, you feel like you're getting old. That's why they're like, hey, we want to send you some stuff. I go, wait, they have under the eye stuff? I got these black things around my eyes, man. Send them, send it. It's really great, and I'll tell you, because I work a lot, especially now being out on my own. I work a lot, very long hours. I'm Like, and especially if I'm doing like Jake's show and I come back and I'm getting back at like 12 a.m. Oh, this thing is helping me already. It already helped with the dark circles under the eyes, the puffiness. Now, 50% of guys suffer from under the eye issues like dark under eye circles, puffiness, tired eyes, fine lines, and wrinkles. I started using it for a little bit, and it's one of my favorites. It really has been. I've been loving what they said. I was excited to try them out, and I haven't been disappointed. What's great is that you get their award-winning best-selling eye cream in a 5-piece trial set valued at $50, but you get it for $15. Eye cream alone is priced at $45, by the way. 70% off would be $15. So they are a 9-time award-winning men's skincare company recognized in Men's Health, Esquire, and Ask Men Grooming Awards. There's 5,000 5-star reviews. People love the product, man. Now, Geology creates a simple and effective skincare routine customized just for you, with ingredients that are proven to work and formulated for daily use. It's pretty awesome. So you just click on the link provided, and you take a 30-second quiz, and then you and that's it. They'll tell you basically what to do, what you need, and all that. So where you can go, by the way, you go to geology.com/big thing. At least I believe that's what it is. Yeah, geology.com/big thing. The link is in the description there. But I'm a big fan. I don't know, Jake. You don't need it yet, but
I do.
You
man.
do? Yeah.
I'm getting the circles. I'm getting a little red. That's the thing about the thing
all
about
this
us.
stuff. Yeah.
Like white guys is we just start to get pinker over.
It's true, but they have stuff for that. They ask you inside of that quiz, and it's like, what do you have? Dry skin, red skin, like all of it. And I filled out. I'm like filling it out. I'm like, I have all these problems, and it's great, and it's really good. And I think that for people who are one, especially for my audience, and that's something, by the way, people are always asking, like whether you've contributed to the studio, thank you. Whether you click like or comment or podcast or part of the Patreon, any of that. What I also say is, like, get some stuff for you, sponsorship-wise. This stuff, I'll tell you right now, this should be for everybody. Everybody should be looking at this and going inside of the description and checking it out. But if that's what you want to do, and if you like it, tell me about it, and then I'll tell everybody, the podcast peeps. All right, man. We're gonna get into Cobra Kai in here in a second. But anything? So you're doing how many shows? Are you doing? You do one a month?
I'm doing one a month.
Okay.
So we'll have. I'm starting with the Halloween shows. Like I just love Halloween, so I'm starting a Halloween show tonight, but last Friday from this.
Right.
But we'll have another Halloween show next week. We'll have a show November show, and I like to theme them off of the holidays.
I like
so
that.
Be different.
I like that. And so are you keeping the Friday 10 o'clock one?
Yes, I believe.
I gotta start drinking coffee.
Yeah,
more coffee. I think someone has to do an energy boost.
Out, man.
It's the truth. It's like tough shit, buddy. You don't want to get there. It's like that's my fucking show. So anyway, guys, please check out Jake Lewis and check him out on. You can go to the Lewis Brothers, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah, the Lewis Brothers videos. Do you look right down the barrel?
Look
or
right
is that
down.
startling?
No, tell him.
I have not been doing that this whole time.
No, you haven't. No, that's okay. No, for when we're talking, no.
Okay.
But when you're plugging your shit, you gotta.
How's it going?
Gotta bring the guitar in next time.
I actually have it in the
shit.
car, but I just because I don't think I'm gonna be able to go home later.
Okay.
But go to the Lewis Brothers video channel. Okay, on YouTube. We'll have The Cowboy and the Samurai coming out very soon. Okay, the story of Jack Nicholson and John Belushi. And come out to Flappers.
You got to come out. You got to come out to Flappers. So let me ask you a question. If the answer is don't feel obligated, if you don't feel like doing it, then you got to say no. I'm going to throw to this Cobra Kai interview. Yes. And I'm going to, when we come back to close out, do you want to sing a song?
I'll sing a song.
Let's fucking do it.
Whatever.
Let's do it. All right, listen. So before Jake's going to get the guitar, before we do that, I wanted to prep you guys. Cobra Kai, season 5, it is out right now. And as you've seen on this channel, I had Mary Mouser on, who plays Samantha LaRusso. I had the creators of the show on. I had Sean Kanan on, who plays Mike Barnes, coming back. And I've wanted for so long to speak to Thomas Ian Griffith. I had an opportunity. He was going back and forth with him on Twitter, and I said, I'd love to opportunity to sit down. He's like, look, I watch your interviews. And I'm like, holy shit, that's great. And he's like, yeah, so what do you want to do? And I was like, let's do it. And we sat down for half an hour and talked, and we talked about everything. So here is my interview with the great Thomas Ian Griffith from Cobra Kai, Karate Kid. Here he is. Enjoy. I did not lie to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined. I've been wanting to talk to this guy forever, and I finally got an opportunity. He was so generous with his time. You know him as Terry Silver, Emperor Palpatine, if you will. The one and only Thomas Ian Griffith. Sir, thank you so much, and how are you?
Fantastic, Kristian. Good to meet you.
It's very nice to meet you. So let's get into this thing, man. So the first thing I want to jump back into, what is it, 1988? Is that when you got cast in the film?
Yep, 88, 89, yeah.
So that was one, and that was the first big movie that you had ever done, yeah?
Literally.
Okay.
First film role. Met in fact, we were from New York, and we moved out to Los Angeles. My wife was on a TV show, and we were going back for the Christmas holidays, and we missed an audition. The days you had to beep into your machine to get the call, and it's like, go by. And I went by the casting office, and they said, John Avildsen's on set, Warner Brothers. You know what? Just go by. And they said, do you really know karate? And it's like, yeah, I really do. And I'm sure every actor walking in the room said that. They're like, okay, right, just go. And they were screen testing actors on set at Warner Brothers. And I met Avildsen, and I read the scene. He goes, hey, can you stick around? We're gonna do, because Ralph Macchio's here. I was like, oh man, this will be great,
Yeah.
And so then I went in to do the scene, and it's like I'm looking at the pages, and he just took them away from me, and he says, "You're a New York actor, just go improvise." So we went, and I had fun. And then he said, "Come back the next day, and we're going to do an official screen test. We have to work out a deal, whatever." So I showed up at Warner Brothers the next day, and they had a wardrobe, and they had this white gi and fake black belt, and it's like, so uncomfortable. My hair was really long. The woman was like, hey, let's just pull it back and get it out of his face. That was literally what they wanted, just to say, so they could see his face. And it ended up sticking. And I called my wife, fiance at the time, and said, hey, will you just bring me my gi, my black gi? Because I was working on Taekwondo and teaching. And once I put it on, I go, now I own it. So I walked on and did the scene. But even then, the script was changing so much. I was like, am I playing the young fighter that fights him at the end, or the 45-year-old teacher? It's like, what's the deal? Because I'm 29 going, I don't fit either role. And then when John Avildsen was like, don't worry, we're changing it all for you. Just go for it. And it was like, this whole Vietnam thing, will this work? And it's like, we're just going for it. So I stopped asking questions about all that and just committed.
So that's interesting. When you initially went in, were you supposed to play the dude that fought him at first? Because you guys, you are not too far off.
I didn't know, Kristian. I think they had it in mind I'd be the teacher because I'm 6'4". I had the sight on the scene went great with Ralph, and I could be imposing with him, and I knew the world. And at the time, the character didn't do any martial arts. He was like the teacher. And then I saw Pat Johnson, the fight choreographer there. I was like, oh, man, you got to tell him, you do all these New York tournaments. You got to tell him you really do it. So then they worked it into the script that I'm, breaking boards and kicking ass.
Which is awesome, because it's even more awesome when you think about it now, because of ultimately where Terry Silver has ended up, and because that comes from that evolution of that, of you developing that character from your personal experiences. That's pretty fascinating.
Isn't that crazy? And it just was so fortuitous on so many levels. And then, just getting this job, and, for me, it was, this is the guy that did Rocky. So I'm going, whatever he says, I am going for 100%. I'm just going for it, And he kept saying that, we want this bigger than life archetypal character. He wants every kid in America kicking me in the shins. And it was like, okay, let's do it, So, and Ralph and everybody, Pat, they were just so welcoming, to come in. They had a couple of, it was a franchise by then, so successful. And so for me, it was just like a fantastic experience. The movie was so, but still my experience was great.
You know what's crazy about that, though, when you say that the movie was so, it's that obviously, and after the first two had that more, I mean, even though Okinawa, the second movie, when you look at it, there's some crazy shit going on in it, but it still goes to a little bit more realistic. And then what's funny is that the third one now when Cobra Kai has done something, because I'm completely upfront and honest with you. I always loved you and Barnes in the third one, but to me, the third one, it didn't carry the same kind of weight,
Right.
but it was the stuff that you guys were doing. And I think that that's why the fans responded to you guys the way that they did. But when you watch Cobra Kai now, without all the outrageous, crazy shit that goes on in the show, it has elevated that movie. I don't know if you've heard that even more so now.
I think, the Terry Silver character did what he did in the franchise, the film franchise, was he brought this energy, and it needed that. It needed to, yes, some of it's, crazy over the top, but some of it's very grounded. So it's like, but it was a character you go, I don't know what's going on. It was unpredictable. And right. I think that's what the guys tapped into, because when they first approached me, it was like, how will this character work? And I thought it may be an episode or two. And truthfully, it probably wouldn't have been my thing, to go back and do this type of thing. And then when they talked me through what they had in mind, literally, they had mapped out this incredible arc. And they had answered all the questions. What was this guy doing for the last 30 years? You play the piano. We're going to work in the piano. You're well read. He's a great reader, and it's like all these things that you go, oh God, I got to do this now. It's great,
Yeah. It's exciting to hear that too, because like even what I like about the guys, every time I get to talk to them about what they do, it's that they're such massive fans, obviously, of the franchise. And when they looked at the absurdity at some of the stuff and some of the over the top stuff that, as you said, was going on in that third movie, that they play that into the fourth season when you come in and you talked about how you were coked up out of your mind.
I love that. And I read that monologue. It's like, okay, these guys get it. Right. It's period. It's right, and he's looking back and saying, this was absurd. What I did was absurd. I stopped everything in my world and life to come back and torture a kid about a karate tournament in the Valley, which the whole premise of the show is ridiculous. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, I think. You say, you get past that, and then within that world, what they created, it has heart. It has moments of real emotion, moments that are actually really scary, real drama going on. And the only way to pull that off is by committing 100%. You can't, pull back and go, it's more for kids. You just got to go for it. At least that was my take.
You're right. It's committing to it, but it's also loving it. And you can tell that they love it, but you can tell that you guys are having fun doing it. And it's very similar. So my whole background came in stand-up comedy, and it's always the whole thing of like, when you're on that stage, like they know if you're not committed, that audience can smell it. And it's the same thing with the stuff, like 5 seasons to do a show and keep people committed. It's not easy to do. And I just had that conversation today where, like, because I was curious, like, as being the big Karate Kid fan that I was, like when they announced that they were doing it, I was like a lot of other people going, what are they gonna do? Like, are they gonna make it like, as coming from the Hot Tub Time Machine guys and everything, you're like, is it gonna be like super goofy? And it wasn't. And it was love put on it. But then the second one, the kids start flipping off trees and doing stuff. And I'm like, is this going to go too crazy? And it doesn't. It does this, like, it's very similar to me what like Fast and Furious did. Fast and Furious had to change and flip it. And like, even though there's some stuff, because you mentioned Terry Silver, what he was, how he knew in season 4 that this is crazy, that I was coked up and I'm torturing this kid. But in season 5, he's doing it even more so now. And he's like, batshit.
But that's what I think the guys do so well. I mean, it's batshit crazy. I mean, what he's doing. But then they will keep grounding it. They'll keep going back and saying, God, it kind of makes sense, And I think that's what they tapped into with Terry Silver, to say, we don't want to lose that glee. This guy enjoys what he does. Give him a good adversary. He's going to rise to the occasion. But there's something about it that you go, those moments of truth that they sprinkle throughout. So what he's saying is like, well, it kind of makes sense. I can understand it.
Yeah.
And as an actor going in, you got to go in without judgment. You say, how can I relate to this? What's that commonality I can find with this guy? And it's like, God, this sense of loyalty that, in the movie version, Kreese was on the streets. He comes to me, you saved my life. I'm going to do anything for you. He comes back again in 4. It's like, this is the last thing I want to do in season 4 is go back into this world. But there's something, I'm devoted to this guy. I have to, give him what he needs, and then slowly, and even in season 4, I love that he was like, John, that didn't work back then. Let's change it now to why we started this thing in the first place, which was so it's sort of reality based. And then because I think you can ground it, then you can go to these great places.
Yeah, it's true. And like, so let's talk about that though, because like he is the ultimate villain, obviously, in this one. And as I told you when we were going back and forth to try to schedule this, that you were like, to me, I'm a Star Wars junkie, right? And that's, you become Palpatine, you become the Emperor. But the thing is, but the Emperor, he had a master, right? And like, and eventually he surpassed him and killed him. And that's exactly what happened here, because Terry Silver was living in peace. He was fine. And now he's even worse than he was, but it's still Kreese's fault. Kreese grabbed him and pulled him back out. So, be careful what you wish for.
And then that ultimate betrayal, to be betrayed like that, to say, wait a second, you're going to try to manipulate me, and I realize he's not, when you commit to something in your life, and Terry Silver has the Cobra Kai way and this philosophy and how important that is. And then you realize, oh, the guy you're partnered with really isn't that committed. He's got a weakness. And it's like this whole thing is like, no. It's time to go and really do it right. That's why season 5 was a blast to start off saying, hey, he's king of the world right now. And he gets to make that dream come true.
And it's going back to that thing, like when you go back and you look at the stuff that happens in Karate Kid 3, there's so many things that the guys pulled from what he tells Daniel. He goes like, I'm going to take over the whole valley. Yeah. I'm going to take over all of it. And they use that. And what I thought was really interesting in this season was when that what you think is a throwaway line about who he studied with. No, that's who he really studied with.
Yeah, from Korea. I mean, that's why these guys literally, know the film franchise inside out, and taking that whole, the master from Korea, and then bringing back, this incredible female master. It sort of all comes together. Yeah. And I love that they do that. And also they gave me the chance to say, before, again, what are the good qualities you can relate to in Terry? It's like, I went to I went to Daniel LaRusso and said, you know what? You took Chosen, you infiltrated my studio, and I still give him an off ramp.
Right.
Dude, just walk away. You do you, let me do my thing. Yeah. So it's like, and no, I couldn't do it. So you get what you deserve, man.
Let's go, Danny boy. Let's go. Let's do it. And let's talk about, so working with Eugene, at Chosen, as I said, I think this is your season, and I think this is his season. Like
he is off the chart.
Wow. So talk to me about working with him and what it was like in those moments, because you guys have some really special moments.
I didn't know Eugene. My wife had worked with him on a movie that did playing husband and wife of all things, and they got along great. And but I was working the shot in Hawaii and I think New Zealand, the second one. So seeing him and meeting him, he's a very quiet, reserved guy, but I loved how committed he was.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go to this place. And at the end of season 4, when they were doing that big weapons tournament, they had talked about me and Chosen having this mano-a-mano. And I was going, God, there's going to be so many karate fights. How do we elevate this? So I went and I found out Don Lee, our fight choreographer, is an expert weapons guy.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'm really good at swords. Let's do something. And so we pitched it to the guys, and they were like, yeah, it could be, baby. And I was thinking, yeah, they don't want to hear from an actor right now. And sure enough, season 5, we read it, and it's like, again, they took that idea, and they have him with the size, very, defined who he was. But then the thing was, it's, with these fights, you only have so much time, rehearsal time, whatever.
Yeah.
And, this is my world. I've done it my whole life. So I have great control. I'm very comfortable with that. But now we're adding another element. We're taking these swords. All of a sudden, the danger factor has gone on. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you can't be screwing around here. And that Yuji was just so committed to say, we're going to work it to death. We're going to make it safe. So when the time comes, we can just let it out. And the truth was, that first time when we square off, you saw John, Jaden, and Josh taking out their cell phones, the fanboying out, going, oh, here's the bad guy from Karate Kid 2, the bad guy from Karate Kid 3. And I even felt it. It was just electric. There's a danger factor. And you just thrive for that stuff, to say there's something you can lock into.
You could tell that you were getting really into that though, too. Yeah. Even how excited you were getting, like kind of taunting him. I'm like, oh, he's having a blast doing this.
And then you go, oh, you're in a rehearsal studio working it. And then that night, you're in water and it's freezing cold. All these elements, and you go, this is only working for us. You know, we're firing on all cylinders.
It was, and as much as I loved, you know, the Terry Silver character, you pissed me off when you slashed him with that sword, man. I was like, I hope you didn't take out Chosen.
You know, well, there's a whole storyline that sort of got cut that I don't know if the guys even want me talking about, but there's one element with the Terry thing that, you know, that sort of helped you understand, like, I'm not afraid to die right now. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that, and I think it worked without it. You know, you look at it now and I watched it, it's like, okay, it still works. But there was that element to say, if this is it, this is it. That's why at the end, when he had him at the, you know, the sword to his throat, the side to his throat, it's like, go ahead, do it. You know, Terry was, I'd rather die a warrior, you know.
It seemed, I think that absolutely came across. And speaking of, you know, as you mentioned beforehand, the bad guys from Karate Kid 2 and Karate Kid 3 facing off. Well, two bad guys from Karate Kid 3 and a master and apprentice in Mike Barnes got to square off. You and Sean Kanan again. Had you seen Sean at all before?
With Ralph and Sean, you know, our paths hadn't crossed. With Sean, we were at an event, a dinner, and someone said, "Oh, the Karate Kid crowd is upstairs."
Oh,
like,
that's right. He told me this.
Like, wait a second. And I hadn't seen them in years, and I walked up, and we sort of crashed it, and I walked over, and I saw Marty and Sean, you know, speaking with one another, and I just walked up and said, "Hey, is this a Karate Kid reunion?" And they just looked at me. I think because my glasses and my white hair, they were like, "Who the fuck are you, man?" Yo, it's Thomas. And then but it took that second because, you know, they expect me to be walking around with the black ponytail. So it's kind of funny. But no, so our paths, like I said, hadn't crossed. And it was great to see him. You know, on set, I didn't really know what he had done except for the little exchange we have.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's still that Mike Barnes type, you know, come in, I want to kick your ass thing. And Terry's like, come on. You know, but then when I watched it, he was great. He knocked it out of the park with, you know, and again, what they did with his character, how do you bring that guy back and make it interesting?
Right.
They just make smart choices with him, and you go, oh, I feel for him. You know, I'm involved, I'm emotionally connected. So kudos to the writers for all that.
Yeah, that was the one where I had like an expectation that didn't happen, and I was like, I'm okay with that. I know that, you know, a lot of the times that it's like, yeah, you got to do something different with the character, otherwise it's going to be the same thing. But I was like, oh, yeah, but I've seen Chosen turn good. I saw Terry Silver turn good for a second, and now he's back to being bad, right? I saw. It looks like Martin Cove and Kreese has turned good, and Johnny's obviously turned good. So they're going to turn Mike Barnes good also.
Yeah, it's funny when I heard that too, and I was thinking the same thing exactly, Kristian. But see, they gave the audience the Mike Barnes they were expecting towards the end, so
yes,
they simplified the audience, but they didn't give it to them in the way they all expected, which I love.
I did as well, because I was telling my audience, you know, when I was previewing it, I was like, I hope they don't turn him good, and people were like, what'd you think? And I was like, I loved it because he still got to be the bad boy karate by coming in at the end there and then ripping off Terry Silver at the end to get his business going back. And I think that we probably haven't seen the last of Mike Barnes. And I ask you, do you think we've seen the last of Terry Silver?
I don't know, Kristian.
Fair enough.
You know, here's the thing. It was such a privilege for me. You know, I've been working as a writer for years, and to be able to come back and play this character, it was really full circle, coming from my first film role to being able to do this and show more colors and depth. And it was a great run. I mean, it was a great 2 seasons and very fulfilling. You know, and what's the future with Terry Silver? I don't know, because it's not like that he just lost the fight and was taken out with a crane kick, but you know, so but past that, once you can accept that, you know, that he lost respect, you know, he lost, and that is going to be more damaging to this character. So he'll probably go off to his private island somewhere and have to.
It's curious. It's curious
because, figure it all out, you know.
Yeah, because Kreese obviously is coming back now for the way that he made things work. Now I don't know if he can do it in the open because he escaped from prison, but it's so bad shit. I love it so much.
But I love that, you know, with all the kids, and there's so many stories still to tell for them. Yeah. And believe me, these guys continually surprise me as writers. So I'm sure the show is going to be fantastic when it comes back.
Well, so I mean, so there's one thing I want to talk about before I ask you. I do want to hear you working with the new generation. But one of the things that I didn't get a chance to ask you when you were talking about being cast in the original film, and you briefly mentioned working with Pat, the late great Pat Morita. What was it like working with him, and just anything that you remember with him, whether it was him being welcoming, any advice that he might have given you when you were on the set?
You know, I came on and, you know, my thing was like, I'm just committing. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm just doing my job. And, you know, when we square off, it's like, God, I still want to show respect though, you know, and he was like, just go, you go for it. You just keep going for it, you know? And then he would make me laugh during things. And so like, even the little lips going, whoa, you know, and it's like, I'm just being an asshole, you know, while we're shooting. And he comes back and does the same thing to me. Then he adds it. And you go, it's so good, you know.
That improv. That was all improv that you were doing.
All improv.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, so stuff like that, and there was so much throughout the whole film. Again, he was just like that security blanket. You know, he was there for Ralph. He's there for me, the newcomer, and just made me feel part of the family. Amazing guy.
I love hearing that. And then, you know, the stuff with and you talk about Ralph and working with him back then too, because like, as you're doing that improv and you're bringing out certain things, like, did you find yourself, because, and I asked Sean the same type of thing, because when you're going into the third movie, and like at this point, Ralph Macchio, you know, and you got to protect, you got to be careful in every little scene that you're doing with him, because you got to protect the golden boy, you know, it makes sense. But did you find yourself like in character really kind of pushing him and trying to get him more pissed off?
You know, that was my job. So they have the weight of the franchise on them. I don't. I'm coming in. I got to be this new energy, and I got to somehow make this work. And I think what we locked into that archetypal thing, but to say, he's like that snake. When he goes, he's going to go. And so when he takes it out on Ralph, it's like you really can't hold back. You know, obviously everything's within safety, and you have a good director who literally is standing right there. And I would always check in saying, we cool? Is this all good? You know, make sure I'm not, you know, and he was like, just keep going for it. I always say, it's like some of those scenes, if that is what Alfson put in the film, imagine what the outtakes were like.
I'm sure.
It's like shit. Talking about batshit crazy.
Well, yeah, and that's why. And so, like, you know, years later, when you guys are doing it again, I'm sure with you and Ralph, it was so surreal.
It was the first moment walking on set, because I hadn't seen Ralph at all. We hadn't run into each other, just standing there. And you know how you see someone you haven't seen in a while, and you just get a really good feeling. It's like, oh yeah, we had a good time. We were kids, but you know, that we're back here with families now. He was with, I think he was married at the time. Was he married? He may have been married. And I was with, you know, my wife now, but I think we were just going out, but the same women and same, it's like everything was about it. It was like, you know, this is kind of cool, you know?
Well, and now you guys are the vets, and you guys, it's like when you look at, like, again, it was Star Wars, where you guys now are the Han and Lukes of the franchise, and now you have this younger generation that's coming into it. So again, when you're working with these younger with the younger actors, who, if it's not for them, I don't think the show is as successful, to be honest, because yes, you have the guys like me who are watching the show and want to see the legacy characters and everything too. But you got to get that hook to get the new characters, new generation in, and they do that. So talk to me a little bit about working with the new cast and what that was like.
First of all, they're all so talented.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that. They're really good kids. They're talented, and they work their asses off. You know, when I went in, it's like, who's the martial artist? It's like, well, so-and-so's a dancer or whatever. It's like, nobody had a martial arts background. And you see how far they've grown, even in the 2 seasons I was there, from season 4 to season 5.
Yeah.
And the time they put in, and what the, you know, fight choreographer and stunt guy did with them, it's phenomenal. And so everybody cared, and there was no horse. I mean, we all laugh and have a good time, but when the time comes, you do your job. And I love that. And I remember my first day, it's like, I'm just going to set my tone on Terry Silver, because the first thing I shot was a class, teaching a class. Well, I got experience doing this. And in my class, you know, you do what you tell. So I came on, it's just like, we're not doing it the same way. I'm going to call you to attention. You're going to bow, and we'll do it. And I just did it. And they're all looking around like going, is this guy for real? But we have to do it, And the director and the guys were just sitting back, just enjoying, saying, this is Terry's world now. You got to let it go.
That's fantastic. And I love hearing that, because I was going to ask you that question. I guess I'll ask it anyway, even though you kind of answered it. Is that, so coming in there and being a martial artist yourself, and you just like, are there times when you see a certain kick or something, and you obviously don't want to step in some of the people that they bring in to do this, but it's like, do you ever find yourself going, try it this way, do that?
If something that, I got really tight with Ken and Don Lee. So sure, especially if it's something like, and then it's always edited a certain way, and you go, oh, as a martial artist, I may have done that differently, or cut it differently. But again, that's not my place on the show. But with the fights themselves, it's like the first day. It was the first fight I had was like just a teaching thing with Robbie, and and they have the 6'4" guy with the white wig, a ponytail, and the stunt guy, and they're doing it. The two stunt actors are doing the master, and I'm watching him going, he's good, but my kicks are so much faster. I mean, I just move just different. And it may have all been in my head, like, this is what I used to do, But so I said to the director, I said, hey, can I have a pass with the other actor stunt person? And they said, yeah. And then I just got to let it out, And right then, all the stunt guys were like, we get it, man. And then it was a great thing, but not the smartest thing, because from then on, it's like, oh, Thomas does everything. Thomas can do everything, And of course, yeah, that's great. But 10 hours of it, I'm sitting in that Epsom salt bath afterwards.
I'm sure, man. Well, you definitely put in all the work for sure. And the last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, obviously, is working with Billy Zabka, because Billy Zabka was the original. He was the original bad guy. He was the first. He was without Billy Zabka, there's no Karate Kid villains. So, and this is essentially it's him and Ralph's show, So it's this was had you ever worked with him? Because I don't know how it worked with the, I know a lot of times that there would be like Comic Cons and things where, and I don't know if you ever were involved in any of those type of appearances and things. But did you ever get a chance to work with Billy before this?
No, again, our paths had crossed just early on. I didn't do the whole Comic-Con type stuff, but the show is a success because of, he's the show, that character. I mean, the humor he brings to it, how he just, you just want to watch him. And in fact, when I first heard about it, like you, it's like, oh, on YouTube, they're doing a series on the Karate Kid films. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be a train wreck, So I tuned in, and then my wife and I just binged that first season. It was so good. It really was. It was funny. Nostalgia, that heart, had all those great things. And I was so proud of Billy and Ralph going, they did it. They pulled it off. Now, I thought it was just the OG thing, and I knew maybe Kreese, because he's in the Karate Kid 1, would be a part of that world, never thinking they're going to bring Terry Silver into this world.
That's interesting you say that, though, because in the first season, they mentioned Silver and Barnes.
But even then, I thought, like, how would he fit into this?
Yeah.
No. And then around season 3 is when the rumors started, and they were like, the guys want to talk to you. And it was like, okay, here it comes, But then I'm so appreciative. And again, Kristian's so honored to come into such a well-oiled machine and then be able to, do my thing, and that it reaches so many people.
And you did that, and then some. Congratulations on the success of the show. Again, it's #1. It's kicking ass, pun intended. People are really enjoying it. People are really talking about your performance, as they should be. I'm very honored that you took the time to talk to me today. Thank you very much. I've been a fan for very long.
Fantastic at what you do. I love your interviews. You're great at it, Kristian. Keep up the good work, man.
That's very kind of you, sir. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is the great Thomas Ian Griffith. He is the man. He is Terry Silver. Do not mess with him. All right. I look forward to seeing you again, my friend. Thank you so much.
You got it, Kristian. God bless.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. So thank you so much for watching Thomas Ian Griffith, man. How cool is that dude? He's the best. God, I love that guy. He's so awesome. It's exciting to have him. All right. What a show. And it really, again, Supersized Monday. Looks like a lot of these times I have these Supersized Monday shows. And they're going to keep coming. So what I need from you guys is please put a like, comment, share. If you haven't already, please do me a favor and subscribe. Thank you to Carbon Health today for sponsoring this episode. And we got a special treat, man. We got a special treat. Now, I have never had on my old shows, whether it was Schmoes Know or something do, or we've had musical guests, hadn't had one on Big Thing. So closing out today on the show, Jake Lewis with one of his. This is I think this is an exclusive where I don't think he's ever sang this on a podcast before.
No,
right? Okay, so he's
never
never have. I've only seen this live on stage at Flappers. So here it is, and the song is called Gary.
Gary, yeah. Just to give you guys a little context.
Oh, that's it. Joy mode.
Just to give you guys a little context. I've been listening to a lot of proclaimers, like I Would Walk 500 Miles, stuff like that. You know, songs about everything a guy would do for a girl. You know, like I would climb mountains and stuff. You know, like really manly shit.
Yeah.
But you know, when guys talk to each other about what they would do for things, it's like all of really homoerotic stuff they would do to each other. Like, would you suck a dick for money? You know what I mean? That's a conversation me and Kristian have all the time. Would you suck a dick for that sandwich? He asked me that at lunch earlier. But I didn't want to do any of that. I like, honestly, this song, like, I just wanted to write it for my girlfriend, who's hopefully watching right now. And I just wanted to make it a song about what I do for her. So, that's it. I would swim across the ocean, every river and every sea. I would climb the tallest mountain. In nothing but my bare feet, I would do anything for you to be here with me. I would sleep on a bed of nails. I would jump out of a plane. I would sleep out in the cold or even in the pouring rain, just to see my baby once again. Hey, I would give up eating pizza, which is my favorite food. I would give up posting on Insta with the hashtag mood. I would do almost anything for you, and this is my truth. I don't mean to be crude, but I'd even make love to a dude. Maybe I shouldn't have said that last part, but you know what I'm trying to say. Please don't think me homophobic. You know I have nothing against the gays. I'm just trying to illustrate the lengths that I would go for you. 'Cause I would do almost anything to feel your warm embrace. I'd even let the Dallas Mavericks bukkake on my face. I don't mean to be disgusting, and I don't mean to be crass, but I would let my best friend Gary fuck me up the ass. I would be his lover boy. I would kiss his supple lips, and after some wine, we would suck each other's dicks. Let's say it tonight. I would let my best friend Gary take me on a date, and after some love making, I would let him feed me grapes. I would no longer be cursed to living in denial. Me and my best friend Gary, we would walk right down the aisle. Oh God, Teresa, if you're listening out there, I'm sorry. We can be just friends, but Gary, it's always been you. God damn it, God damn it, Gary, I love you. I have a question for you. I hope the answer is yes. Marry me, Gary. Marry me, Gary. Marry me, Gary. Won't you marry me, Gary? Marry me, Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Lewis. He's left to go find Gary. We'll see you next week.